He'd been watching Leo emerge from the river, but now he turned his complete attention back to Finn. You don't think we could control our beasts? You think we'd go on a killing spree? Al thought he knew what Finn would say, but he still needed to ask, the same way he'd poke at a sore tooth with his tongue. The pain felt so good, it let him know he was still alive. Finn's long silver hair and matching eyes gleamed in the pale light of the full moon. So, I should mention that every one of these guys is ridiculously attractive, model attractive, anime attractive, and Finn's hair matches his eyes, which means he is not what he seems, A, and B, it means that he is super good at his job, and possibly his job involves deception. That's just like a rule. It's a rule in the anime world, and Ms. Bang seemed to have adopted that in her world. The hair and eyes wouldn't help him keep a low profile. Finn shrugged. Not Ty. Now that he's mated to Kelly, he's mellowed a little. She's calmed him down, and Leo gets a rush from the whole thing, but underneath he's cold and contained. So it's me you don't trust? He tried to work up some outrage, but it wouldn't come. Finn was right. Finn met his gaze. What would have happened if I wasn't here to call you back tonight? Al didn't answer. And yeah, he knew he had a sullen expression pasted on his face. He hated when Finn was right. Finn's smile held a bitter twist. Besides, you have a lot of rage to work through. Al didn't bother to deny it. Finn knew every corner of his soul. So? A lame answer, but it was the only one that came to mind. Again with maturity. He kind of feels like a teenager. A really crabby teenager. And it gets better. Don't work through your issues by running away from them, Al. That's what you're doing each time you block out your humanity. You don't want to become a liability to the 11. The warning was clear. Ty joined them. Hey, we kicked a demon butt tonight. I haven't had this much fun since we left Houston. He thought about what he said. Don't tell Kelly. She's never gotten the violence is fun thing. I guess it's a guy thing? Violence is fun? Girls don't get it? Leo had pulled on his clothes and joined them. Tearing apart a bunch of demons hadn't put a wrinkle in his fashion mag image. Al wondered how he did it, and why it even mattered. You are so whipped. Leo raked his fingers through hair that, even damp, looked perfect. Ty turned on him with a growl. Leo ignored Ty's reaction. I froze my ass off in that water. Finn held up his hand to stop whatever Ty intended to say. Okay, it's over. We did the job. You guys ripped them up and I tossed what was left back into hell. I'll get rid of this last one now. Once they pick up the pieces, and Finn meant that literally, they won't stick their noses or any other body parts through this portal again. He sounded sure of that. Why not? What's to stop them getting their act together and making another run for it? Al wanted that in a big way. He wanted a second chance to vent his frustration, his aloneness in mindless, savage fury. Because I told them not to come back. Finn's voice was soft, reasonable, and the scariest thing he'd heard that night. Al just nodded. Why? What? Is he their boss? What is it? What exactly? Finn doesn't fight. He doesn't fight, and it's a little unclear as to how exactly these people, dinosaur spirits fight. I'm not clear on any of this. Maybe this will become a little more clear later in the book, but right now I don't understand why Finn's scary, but everyone, everywhere he goes, is like, oh, he's so scary, dude. Why? Show me. They belonged to 8. He's the only one with enough power to make a bunch of demon dirtbags work together. Finn glanced at his men. We needed information, but by the time you got through with them, they weren't in any condition to answer questions. Curb your enthusiasm next time. Leo and Ty grunted their grudging agreement. Al wasn't in the mood to agree with anything Finn said, so he opted for a question instead. I don't get it. Back in Houston, you brought the Astrodome down without breaking a sweat. So why'd you settle for just sending the demons back to hell? Why not kill their asses? Finn turned his silver gaze on him. I can't. His expression said that the subject was closed. Glad you cleared that up. Thanks for the detailed explanation. I'm in agreement here. Al's muttered sarcasm was meant to be heard. Finn didn't get mad. He never lost his temper, and that's exactly what shoved Al's temper into the head-exploding range. What would it take to make the almighty Finn lose it? Something half-remembered suggested Al wouldn't live through the experience. In calmer moments, Al recognized that some of his anger probably came from being so close to Finn. None of them could be around the guy long without feeling their primitive emotions ratchet up. Finn had never explained why that happened. There were lots of things Finn didn't explain. For just a moment, Al felt other thoughts intrude. Memories of times and places Finn never talked about. But then the pain in his head started and the fog rolled in. His memories faded away, as they always seemed to do. Finn threw him a sharp look. Demons are true immortals, just like Zero and the rest of his crew. I don't have the power to destroy them. I can only change their home address. Al pulled his calm a little more tightly around him. Got it. He wished they knew the names of the damn immortals they were hunting, because he could never get used to calling them numbers. Of course, Finn got off on numbers, so he was probably in his happy place. Time to go. Finn stared at a spot in the center of the clearing, and a portal opened. He sent the pieces of the last demon through, closed the portal, and then turned back toward the SUV. Get it together, Al. We'll wait. He didn't look back as he spoke. For the first time tonight, Al was grateful to Finn. He knew Al needed a little breathing room and was giving it to him. Okay, grateful moment over. Ty and Leo spared Al a curious glance, but they didn't ask any questions. He appreciated that, too. He watched them until they'd climbed into the SUV before turning his gaze back to the river. A strong breeze was blowing off the water. It whipped his waist-length hair around him in a wild tangle, but that didn't bother him. He always kept his hair braided, except when he hunted. It was a stupid symbolic gesture that didn't mean anything to anyone but him. Wearing his hair unbraided was a reminder of what he'd been, of what he'd never fully be again. It meant freedom and emotional cutting loose. He smiled. Well, not exactly smiled, more a baring of teeth. I see this a lot in these kinds of books, and I don't know what you picture, but in my mind it's kind of like, that's so sexy. But they're dinosaurs, so I guess maybe if you're into that. If 8, the immortal they were hunting in Philly, had gathered enough of an army around him, maybe Al would get to cut loose a lot. It would take too long to braid his hair now. Reaching into the pocket of his jeans, he pulled out a leather strip and tied it back. Then he closed his eyes and just stood there for a minute while his soul slowly backed into his cave until it was swallowed up by the darkness. But his mind could still see its eyes staring out at him, watching, waiting for that next chance to claw its way to the surface. This is his anime moment where he must broodingly stare off into the distance. Hair whipping in the wind. Come on, hurry up! I'm starving! Ty's shout echoed in the darkness. Yeah, I'm coming. Just to annoy Ty, Al took slow steps all the way to the SUV. In another time, Ty could have torn him apart, but now things were a little more equal. That was the only upside to now. Once inside, he settled into the seat next to Leo. Al let the other men talk as Luke, Finn's human driver, headed away from Fairmount Park. They were damn lucky that both Houston and Philly had parks that covered lots of land, plenty of private areas where no humans would be at night. He glanced at the houses that made up Boathouse Row when Luke drove past them. Every house was outlined with strings of white lights. Pretty in the dark. Finn was wrong. He wouldn't have come down here and done a demolition act. He would have searched for something that could fight back. Once away from the houses, Al sank into himself, his favorite place nowadays. But Leo ruined his attempt at some healthy brooding by punching his shoulder. "But I could run up those steps faster than you could," Leo pointed. The steps, lots of them, led up to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Al recognized the building because Finn had made all of the 11 study maps and guidebooks of Philly until their eyes crossed. His excuse was that if they ever had to drive themselves in an emergency, they damn well better know where they were going. "Hey, knock yourself out, but you'll be puffing up them alone." The only thing that could motivate Al to exert himself that much would be if 8 was giving him the finger from the top step. Leo shrugged. "What can I say? I love a challenge. Rocky ran up those steps." "Who? The movie?" He looked disgusted by Al's ignorance. "We all watched it in Houston. I thought you saw it with us." "I don't watch many movies." Come to think of it, Al didn't do much of anything when he wasn't hunting or sleeping. "That's attractive. That's nice. That's nice." Not great for his mental health, but he couldn't get into the rhythm of life in the here and now. His own fault. But what was the point? They were here to kill. He didn't think beyond that. Finn turned to stare at him. "What?" He didn't like the calculating look in Finn's eyes. "When was the last time you had sex?" Al didn't have to think long. 65 million years ago? "Don't you think it's about time you had it again?" Finn wasn't smiling. "It might take the edge off you." Yes, because that is his problem, clearly. Leo stifled his laugh. Ty didn't stifle anything. He snorted his opinion of Al. "Geez, no wonder you're such a hard ass." Al's soul thought that was a pretty good excuse to crawl out of its cave. "Control it." Finn's voice was a sharp blade across the heart of his rage. Al fought for calm. "You know, sometimes you really can't go home," Finn said. "Sometimes you have to make the most of where you are." Finn had returned to staring out at the darkened streets, but Al knew the comment was aimed at him, because he was the only one of the 11 who wasn't settling into 2012, who wanted to go back to where he'd been before, to when he'd been before, and he hated Finn for refusing to make it happen. So that's not the whole first chapter, but we're getting pretty long here, so I'm going to stop here and make another video.